Hey guys, I'm Katie Ziskind. I'm the owner of Wisdom Within Counseling and Coaching. I help couples who are feeling frustrated, distant, and stuck in the silent treatment, feelings of powerlessness, feelings of hopelessness, rebuild meaningful connection, rekindle emotional intimacy and emotional security, build a foundation for a healthy, passionate, and beautiful sex life, and build both emotional connection and sexual connection. This is really helpful. This video is great for couples who are stuck in a cycle where past childhood trauma, maybe being raised by narcissistic parents or emotionally unavailable parents, and having a mother who is very chaotic emotionally, or a father who was very critical and militant and explosive and angry, it's affecting your marriage because those wounds are still coming up. We may not realize it. That may be under what we can really conceptualize right now, but I give you that awareness in couples counseling. So I am a Gottman Level 2 trained marriage counselor. This means I'm trained in the Gottman method. I'm also a certified sex therapy informed professional. That means that I give you a safe place to overcome religious trauma, overcome sexual shame and guilt, talk about pornography, talk about all the things that you want to talk about related to sex and intimacy, understand the female orgasm, talk about how to lengthen foreplay, kind of really overcome myths and shame that our society puts on us in a sexual manner. I also help in terms of Imago Therapy, which means understanding how inner child wounds are impacting your current marriage dynamic. So if you're getting stuck in high conflict fights, or it feels like you're super frustrated in your marriage and conflicts, there's usually some lingering unhealed trauma, whether it's sexual abuse, emotional abuse, psychological abuse, or physical abuse that's still there that needs tending to from childhood. So I am a trauma specialist when it comes to couples. And if you grew up with narcissistic parents, you know the emotional scars run really deep. You may have learned to suppress your needs, play small, be invisible, not be a burden, not be too sensitive, walk on eggshells, and keep your guard up as a child. And you developed conflict avoidance skills, which are not great in a marriage. We need to actually learn how to use conflict as an opportunity for growth and connection. In your marriage, these old wounds and childhood traumas can re-trigger intense emotions in deep fights. So when you're having a high conflict fight, or when you're having even a stonewalling or a silent treatment fight, these old wounds can bring back big feelings. So you might end up in cycles of distance, disconnection, and emotional shutdown that you need help from a professional learning how to shift out of. So today in this video, I'm going to share 10 powerful Imago Therapy skills. If you're looking to work with me and better your marriage and have a specialist who understands trauma, inner child wounds, the pain of having narcissistic parents, and also gives you a sex positive environment, I would love to support you. You can head over to wisdomwithinct.com. That's wisdomwithinct.com to start with me. Now let's jump into these 10 skills. So skill number 1 is to understand what we do in session, which is called the Imago dialogue. The Imago dialogue is a very structured way of speaking. This is very helpful for high conflict couples that end up criticizing each other, getting defensive, really not taking accountability, trying to fact tell. Couples that come in to see me end up monologuing and fact telling and quizzing their partner. Well, you said this. Well, no, I didn't say this. Well, no, you actually said it this way. Well, I didn't say that. I don't remember that, right? And we end up in this very painful stance. And we also, in the Imago dialogue, have you turn your bodies to face each other. So turn your hearts to each other, no distractions, no cell phones, no TV, and one person is the speaker, and the other person is the listener or the mirror. And when the person who is speaking is talking, the other one listens fully using their language back to them. So they're not going to interrupt. There is going to be a time for the listener to have a turn to speak too, but it's really important because a lot of times I see couples cutting each other off and interrupting each other, and that's a really painful experience. And then the mirror is going to repeat back exactly what the speaker said. So using the exact words with the prompt, what I hear you sharing with me is. And so this allows for validation. This means that the listener can even say something like, it makes sense how you're feeling. It makes sense to me because, right? It makes sense to me because is a statement of validation. It's not a statement of right or wrong or fact-telling. It's a statement of emotional validation, which is really important for empathy and emotional connection. And so this is about connecting to the speaker's feelings. And the speaker and the listener switch at some point. And this rewires your brain to feel safe while sharing emotions. And if we're getting interrupted, we're getting criticized, we have a partner biting our head off and we can't even speak, it makes it really hard to share feelings. So we have to have a structured type of conversation where one person's the speaker and the other person's the listener. Now, skill number 2 that we're going to talk about is called mirroring without defensiveness. It is so easy to get defensive when you're putting your guard up, you are trying to prove to your partner you're not who they think you are, or you didn't do this, or they should see this side of you, and it's just very difficult. So when your partner expresses hurt, pain, betrayal, frustration, resist the urge to explain or justify your behaviors. And simply reflect to their exact words. What I hear you sharing is you felt. What I hear you sharing is you needed. What I hear you sharing is that you felt, this when I did this. This helps couples with narcissistic parents feel heard, right? When you're a child growing up with a mother who's narcissistic or a father who's narcissistic, you never had a voice. You felt small. You were not able to be your authentic self. You had to walk on eggshells. You were never able to express your feelings. So this is the first time in your life, oftentimes in marriage counseling, where you're learning how to express your feelings and you're craving, you're hungering being heard. And you're wanting that to happen without the conversation spiraling. So this learning how to mirror without defensiveness really helps couples who've had traumatic childhood experiences finally feel heard and validated without it getting worse, without the conflict escalating. Skill number 3 is going to be use curiosity instead of criticism. It is so easy, even in a sexual experience, right, with long-term couples, for one person to say, well, you're not doing it right. Well, I don't like that. And those statements, even those small statements, can come off as criticism and make your partner feel inadequate and make them say, well, why try? I'm never going to get anywhere. I'm never going to make them happy. So I want you to use curiosity instead of criticism. Or even if you can't be curious, maybe think of interest, right? And on an even better scale, maybe we use compliments or appreciation instead of criticism. So replace why do you always with help me understand. Curiosity lowers defensiveness and keeps the conversation open. And on an even greater scale, level 2 would be expressing appreciation for your partner. So if you want them to change a behavior, if there's some complaint that you have, position it as what you would like them to do more of. So I really like it when you spend 90 minutes in emotional and sexual foreplay. It really gives me time to open up and trust you. And, that is a beautiful ask instead of, I really don't like our sex life. It sucks. So it gives your partner an idea of what you need and what you want more of. So it can be something like, I really love it when we go to bed and all of the dishes in the sink are done. It just makes me feel so great that we're on the same team when you've taken care of the dishes, right? That lets them know that you want more of something. Whereas if you say, you suck at doing the dishes, I'm so exhausted from you leaving these dirty dishes in the sink, it's better to shift into curiosity and appreciation instead of criticism. Skill number 4 we're going to talk about from Imago Couples Therapy is to speak from your feelings, not from blame. Use I feel statements instead of you make me. For an example, I feel scared when you raise your voice. It actually reminds me of my aggressive mother. When I was younger, I was yelled at a lot and lectured a lot. And I'm just giving this random example, but I feel scared when you raise your voice. It would really help me if you spoke to me calmly. That is a great way to speak your truth and use I feel statements rather than you're so aggressive, you lose it, and you're not a good partner, right? Like those statements are very blamey. and it's very off-putting. And over time, studies have shown that if we have blame and blame and blame over a series of instances, it does damage the marriage bond, and it can lead to separation and divorce. The Gottman researched that and found that. So, blame is in that category of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse that will destroy your marriage. Number 5, identify the childhood wound beneath the trigger. And this is something that I would love to help you do in couples counseling in Southeastern Connecticut, in Niantic, in the East Lyme area. Identifying the childhood wound beneath the trigger is something that couples don't often conceptualize before coming to therapy. The fight is not about the sex. The fight is not about the dishes. The fight is not about parenting. Those may be the current challenges that you're facing, but the emotional experience beneath those is a reminiscent experience of childhood trauma. So pause in the conflict and ask yourself, is my reaction to the present moment fight, or is it about the past? In Imago Therapy, I help couples understand each other's inner child wounds. First, we understand our own. A lot of couples, don't even recognize that these memories from childhood actually have elements of trauma, powerlessness. Being an angry kid has a reason, right? Maybe you were told you were the problem child or the one that was blamed for causing all the family's dysfunction, and you never had a voice. And so you were considered the angry kid, right? Children are symptoms of their families. And so we have to look at those experiences in childhood in couples counseling to build a stronger attachment. So Imago Therapy helps you see that many fights that you're having are triggered and rooted in old survival patterns. So trauma responses. So fight, flight, and freeze. Your body learned how to go into fight, flight, and freeze responses when you were a young child facing emotional abuse, psychological abuse, and these survival patterns are replaying now in your marriage. So let's say as a young boy, you had a father that was very militant and you could never do anything right. So then when your spouse mentions something that they would like you to do better, it makes you feel inadequate and scared and small like you did when you were a child. So we work through that trauma processing together. Number 6, schedule safe connection time. Set aside 20 to 30 minutes every single day for emotional check-ins. And for couples that don't do this, you might start with 20 to 30 minutes every other day. This is really important to have as a ritual of connection. And we know that rituals of connection prioritize the marriage, prioritize the couple bubble, and allow for emotional intimacy. This is not about fixing. This is not about taking action or problem solving. Instead, this is a time where you and your partner can start by sharing 3 things you appreciate about each other. Express your gratitude. Tell your partner, I am so happy I get to have another day with you, and talk about what's on your heart. Number 7, reframe your partner as a teammate and an ally, not the enemy. Remember, you two are on the same team against the problem, not against each other. This is about stepping together and seeing the problem as the villain, and you two are on the same superhero team. This is really important for survivors of emotional abuse, psychological abuse, and survivors of narcissistic parents who were taught that relationships were unsafe. As a child, you may have felt like you were being villainized against your parent. One moment your parent was warm and loving, the next moment they were cold to you and withdrew love and withheld affection and guilt tripped you and then blamed you and then were affectionate again. So when you have a narcissistic parent, they're hot and cold. It's hard to tell who you're going to get. They have very intense mood swings. And so as a child, it's very hard to trust that your partner is loving and caring and wanting to build a secure connection with you. But over time, through therapy, you can learn that your partner does want to build that with you and is willing to stay even when it gets hard. So remember that you two are on the same team. Number 8, practice reparative love languages. After a conflict, offer small gestures to repair. Conflict is a natural part of any relationship, but the couples who have this greatest level of emotional intimacy and emotional security repair conflict immediately. This means coming to your partner and apologizing without them having to ask. coming to your partner and saying, I'm sorry I made you feel. This is what I want to do in the future to prevent that from happening. An apology has 3 parts to it. Also, you can repair after a conflict by giving your partner a warm cup of tea or a cup of coffee that they like. You can give them a hand squeeze. You can give them a long hug and send them an encouraging, appreciative text. These micro moments rebuild safety faster than words alone, because a lot of times when we have a conflict, it re-triggers those fight, flight, and freeze trauma responses from our childhood. Number 9, normalize pausing mid-conflict. In Imago Therapy and couples therapy, it's okay to say, I want to hear you, but I need 10 or 20 minutes to deep breathe and calm my body so I can really listen to you. I'm finding myself getting really shaky and really triggered. This allows you to tune into your nervous system. When you have been through narcissistic abuse, emotional abuse, or sexual abuse, your body is always just a split second away from going into fight, flight, or freeze. So saying to your partner, hey, I really want to hear you. I want to work through this with you. I'm not going anywhere. Lets them know you're not going to abandon them, which may be their trauma. And let them know a specific duration that you need to calm your body and what you're going to do. Hey, I'm going to be in this room. Hey, I'm going to go for a walk. I'll be back in 15 minutes. Right? It lets them know where you'll be and how long that they can, rely on you to return. And this prevents the fight, flight, freeze spiral where couples get into really escalated fights. Number 10, our skill for Imago Therapy to take outside of session is to share your growth requests. Instead of vague demands, I want you to identify your needs, identify your wants, and identify your goals and desires in a very clear, loving way. So, for instance, it would help me feel connected if we had one phone-free or tech-free dinner together every night, or each week, right? Pick a duration. And so saying, hey, it really bothers me when you're on your phone. It would make me feel really close to you if we just talked. Right? Specific requests are a lot easier to fulfill and prevent resentment. And when you make a request, give your partner 48 hours to implement that request. They should be implementing it pretty quickly and maybe even have a follow-up conversation about it with you. But talk about what you want to grow together. If you and your partner grew up with narcissistic parents, you may be stuck in a cycle of fight, flight, and freeze in your marriage fights. These fights can get really out of hand. They can also impact your sex life, your ability to orgasm, your ability to enjoy sexual experiences and be in that playful state together. When you're stuck in a state of fight, flight, and freeze, you're reliving past traumatic experiences and maybe even afraid that abandonment or rejection or trauma or abuse is going to happen again. And so we talk about those emotions. We talk about how to nurture those inner child wounds in couples counseling in Southeastern Connecticut and on video telehealth. I give you skills to build a relationship and a healthy marriage based on emotional intimacy, respect, empathy, emotional closeness, and all of those lay a foundation for incredible sexual expression and sexual passion and sexual connection. Imago Therapy gives you the tools to heal from past trauma and to turn painful triggers into an opportunity for deep understanding and growth together. If you found these tips helpful, hit a like, subscribe, or share this video with someone who needs it. Talk with your partner about which tips you would like to implement into your marriage garden and into your couple bubble. And if you want to work with me directly, you can find me over at Wisdom Within Counseling and Coaching. My website is wisdomwithinct.com. That's wisdomwithinct.com. I offer sessions in person and online on video. And I'm a certified sex therapy informed professional. I'm a Gottman Level 2 trained marriage specialist. I work with couples who need help healing from narcissism in their childhood, if they had a parent that made them feel like they're not good enough, that they were a burden, that they had to play small and walk on eggshells, and how this impacts your current marriage fights, and to break cycles of high conflict fighting and intense fighting that's really something you can both team up and use as an opportunity, to overcome together. And so I help you do that and process that. So head on over to wisdomwithinct.com. I'd love to support you in building a strong and healthy marriage.